most politically informed and lyrically talented MCs in the business. 2 years later, Talib collaborated with High Tech under the group name Reflection Eternal to release the album Train of Thought. He was, Train of Thought. He has released 4 solo albums since then, including Quality in 2002, The Beautiful Struggle in 2004, and the best-selling 2007 Eardrum, which he released on his own label, Blacksmith Music. He has featured guests and producers on his albums from some of the best folks in the music business today, from Kanye West, Madlib, Pete Rock, and Mos Def, to Justin Timberlake and Norah Jones. So, diversity there, right? He made numerous appearances on Chappelle's Show and appears in the documentary Dave Chappelle's Block Party. From his work with Black Star to Rockets Records and his own Blacksmith label, which signed the critically acclaimed underground MC Jean Grey. I wanted to pause right there appropriately. So I'm glad you all responded. Thank you very much for that. Talib has been at the forefront of some of the most significant moments in hip-hop history. His 2014 CD, Gravitas, is his most recent release. So without further ado, please put your hands together for Talib Kweli.
How y'all feeling?
Yeah!
Thank you for that rousing round of applause. That was wonderful, man. And y'all been enjoying yourself?
Yeah, man.
Y'all look good, St. Louis. I ain't been here in a minute, man. I remember last time I was here, I was...
Rock House.
There we go. There we go. Rock House. So, I came here to talk to y'all about what I know a lot about, which is hip-hop, and my experience, which... You know, I feel like my experience is equally similar and equally very different and unique to a lot of people in the room. So I'm going to share some of it with y'all. And what I really look forward to is the question and answer at the end. But before we do that, I've been working on this book. And what I tend to do at events like this is find chapters of this book that I've been working on that I could read to y'all that will tell you a little bit about myself that you may or may not know. So can I get into some of that?
Yeah.
Thank you, St. Louis. I appreciate y'all. Okay. My story is not the truth. My perception is only 1/3 of this story. The truth will be known when I'm gone. My story is not a rags to riches story. It's not a story of how a little ghetto boy rises above all adversity to beat the odds and then eventually reconciles with his past. I have no interest in playing up how badass my childhood was. Even if I did, there would not be much to work with. Conventional wisdom about rappers is that we are rebels with a cause, or without a cause, who constantly see red and express ourselves in coded rhymes that the establishment will never understand. The truth is, most rappers are nerds, super nerds. We live at the top of the nerd food chain, we do. We are without a doubt nerdy nerds who are good with words. Jay-Z is a hustle nerd. Nas is project nerd. Eminem is trailer park nerd. Bun B is trill nerd. I never read this out loud. We turn poetry into personality and nervous energy into swagger. Our need to be liked by everyone in the room is why we use rhymes to explain what we are going through, and ultimately, it's what brings you closer to us. I have many vices. I do not trust anybody who doesn't. I'm insecure about many of my appearances. I have a competitive nature that borders on jealousy. I'm selfish, without a doubt, driven by my ego. A few hours of looking at my Twitter timeline will convince anyone that I love to debate and I care too much about what others think of me. Why else would I be on Twitter if I didn't? I also realize my story is one of inspiration. I'm very aware of my place in this world and what I bring to it. I recognize my position as a connector of like-minded people, as a griot, as proof that a life of creating substantial entertainment can very much be reality. I know I am a great lyricist not because others say it, but because of the time that I spent dedicated to my craft. I know it whether you say it or not. This is not a lie. This is the life of a visionary who creates capital from ideas that spring from their ever-evolving mind. It's not a life for the weak. To be your own boss is bravery. To live a life where your sole existence is fulfilling the vision of someone else can result in cowardliness the moment you achieve an understanding of what it is that you are actually doing. This is my warrior's toast to those of us who are like us. I never dreamed of being a conscious rapper for a living. That was not my dream. I only wanted to be a great rapper. Before then, I wanted to be a marine biologist, then a baseball player. It was standing in the outfield, swatting away flies during baseball practice that I realized music was my true calling. There were so many lyrics running through my head, I could no longer focus on baseball. Hip-hop's mix of music and poetry was far too seductive for me to ignore. Hip-hop sank its teeth into me and never let go. I was blessed to come of age at a time when making conscious hip-hop was trendy. You could not be great and frivolous at the same time. Your skill was intertwined with your ability to uplift people and spread information. This coincided with how I was raised, because if I did not have the foundation in my home, I would have disregarded conscious hip-hop when the trend was over. This trend, as fleeting as it was, created some of the most indelible hip-hop recordings to date. People have always been stuck in the decades they came of age in, whether it was the 60s, 70s, or 80s. But the people who were stuck in the 90s declare it as a badge of honor. The quality of hip-hop music from the 1990s and what the producers and artists were going through has a lot to do with this. Music preference is based on region and emotion. It's based on where you grew up and the age in which you grew up in. Because people routinely attach music to personal memories, no music is better than what they were listening to when they were in high school or college, the best times of their lives. Y'all know that's true for everybody in the room. In 1965, Brenda Carroll Moorhead attended Erasmus Hall High School in Brooklyn, New York. In her free time, she loved being in the boosters, roller skating, and especially reading. Her constant consumption of books would land her in the honors program that the high school offered. While Erasmus' current population is predominantly Afro-Caribbean, today, in 1965, there were very few black people, and Brenda was one of the only people of color in most of her classes. Most of the black students who entered Erasmus Hall at the time were bused in from neighborhoods like Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights. This observation, along with the social climate in the 1960s, made her want to become more culturally aware. She continued to excel in school, and in the winter of 1968, she was rewarded for her focus and dedication, and accepted by New York University on a financial aid package that would pay for her tuition. On April 4th of the same year, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was gunned down on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, and the country erupted. The bullets that James Earl Ray pumped into Dr. King also killed the happy, free-love spirit that stereotypically embodied the 1960s. America was seemingly darker and more aggressive. The black students who were at NYU in 1968 channeled that aggression and became active in a fight to create a Martin Luther King Jr. scholarship at the university. Brenda ended up becoming a part of this struggle by being awarded the MLK scholarship, and she began attending classes in the fall of that year. This struggle was a turning point in her life. The role of student activist fit her well and gave her more direction. She became active in the college's Black Student Organization and began to actively participate in the Black cultural arts movement of the 1960s. Cultural identity was a hot topic for her. The myth of the American melting pot that was fed to children in elementary school was being crushed by the images of social unrest and war that would be broadcast into homes nightly. Abandoning the language and customs of your ancestors and what people were told to do to make it in America, but doing so could prove to be a death sentence for your spirit. The search for a cultural identity is what would bring Perry Edward Green and Brenda Carroll Moorhead together. Perry's background in anti-war activism and Brenda's in the Black cultural nationalist arts movement at a politically and socially active time in this country brought these young people together while they were still at a critical stage in the formation of their identities. They quickly fell in love, and they got married at Perry's parents' house in New Rochelle, New York. They started life together in Brooklyn. In 1974, Brenda convinced Perry to move to a larger apartment in Jamaica, Queens. On October 3rd, 1975, in Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, I was born. On August 10th, 1977, their second son, Jamal Kwame Green, was born. I've been called a lot of different things. Talib, Talbot, Tomlin, Tabeel. These are all things that I've been called by people, adults and children alike, who have had the pleasure of reading my name aloud in front of a group of other people. I learned early on that the average person gives up on a word if it's made up of a series of letters they have never seen before. T-A-L-I-B. Pronounced Talib by my parents, and Talib by most Muslims. I've had school teachers, without even attempting to pronounce my name, literally tell me they could not pronounce it. Talib is an Arabic name which means the student or seeker. According to the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad had an uncle named Abu Talib, who was his first convert to, or the first student of Islam. Kweli is a name that exists in many African dialects, but most prominently in Swahili and Akan. It means of truth or of knowledge. The literal translation of Talib Kweli is seeker of truth and knowledge. I could not grow up to be a crackhead with this name. When my parents chose this name out of some random African name book in 1975, they could not have known the political connotations that would come to be associated with it. They could not have known that smartphones would come to autocorrect the spelling of my name from Talib to Taliban. Or that executives at Rugged Records would ask me to reconsider my name and professionally change it after the destruction of the World Trade Center.
Wow.
Perry and Brenda Green only knew that their children would have strong African names. Names that had meanings, and names that would let the world know before we even open our mouths that we had self-esteem and would not be taken for jokes. Like many black parents in the 1970s, they gave their boys unmistakably African names, Talib Kweli Green and Jamal Green. By the time Perry and Brenda were ready to have children in the mid-70s, Pan-Africanism, or the active celebration or participation in African culture, had gone mainstream. Brothers and sisters proudly rocked dashikis and afros, and Ebony and Jet magazine were taking their fashion cues from Africa. Perry and Brenda both rock afros, even though Perry's hairline was receding. They had gone to Ghana and celebrated Kwanzaa. They had gone to Ghana for their honeymoon and celebrated Kwanzaa regularly. Their Pan-Africanism was a natural extension of the political philosophy they originally shared, which was black cultural nationalism. As cultural consciousness began to sneak its way into black American homes, black nationalism became the predominant philosophy of forward-thinking black folks. As a concept, black nationalism began its journey as a child of the Haitian Revolution. Those Haitians influenced Africans all over the diaspora to begin thinking about independence from an oppressive Europe. After the American Revolutionary War, there were many free and literate Africans all over the country. Many were members of the same Masonic lodges the white Americans who went to war, as the white Americans who went to war in Great Britain. These white folks were greatly influenced by the ideas of the Enlightenment era that were taking place in Europe at the time, but their enlightenment did not seem to extend to the African brothers. African Masons like Prince Hall and Richard Allen formed separate but equal in concept halls for Africans and encouraged Africans to be able to stand on their own without being dependent on European social constructs. These men, along with the Haitians and the Maroon people of Jamaica, were studied by Marcus Garvey, who in June of 1919 incorporated the Black Star Line, a shipping company charged with the mission of bringing black people from the Americas back to Africa. Marcus Garvey's focus on African self-reliance remains a standard bearer for Rastafarians, political activists, black nationalists, all types of people. He had tremendous influence on the Nation of Islam and the Black Power movement that happened in the 1960s. The term Black Power was made famous by Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, and the concept was put into practice when Kwame Nkrumah became the president of Ghana in 1952. Malcolm X, perhaps the greatest symbol of the Black Power movement, came out of the Nation of Islam and went on to form the Organization of African American Unity in 1964, which had more of a Pan-African focus. Black cultural nationalism, and to a larger extent Pan-Africanism, informed the values in my home. Both of my parents were teaching, and although we were living in an integrated neighborhood in Park Slope, Brooklyn at 701 President Street, my parents enrolled me and Jamal in Wales Shule, which was an Afrocentric independent school in Flatbush, created by a black educator named Ayanna Johnson. Wales Shule later moved to a larger location and changed the name to the Johnson Preparatory School, is now more Christian-based. After 2 years at Wales Shule, Jamal and I left to attend Junior Academy, an African-American owned and operated independent school in Bedford-Stuyvesant. My parents chose the school to ensure that we had a foundation for a nurturing learning environment and that the cultivation of pride and self-esteem were core principles of this environment. At this point, hip-hop music and culture were beginning to be woven through the fabric of New York City. Dwelling in the rotten apple anytime after 1970 almost automatically makes you a part of the hip-hop generation down by law. In the early 1980s, subway trains were covered in bold and beautiful pieces of graffiti. B-boy crews roamed the streets like carnies, putting on impromptu shows at quite literally the drop of a hat. In case you made the mistake of thinking you was going to avoid hip-hop music, the true proponents of the culture walked around with big, loud, flashy radios called boomboxes, turning entire city blocks into their own personal iPods. Every year, my father and his cousins, Jackie and Warren, would organize a family reunion at Lido Beach in Long Island. Lido Beach had these huge mushroom-shaped structures with tables under them you could rent for the day. My grandmother would bring her famous biscuits, Warren would bring the huge speakers out, and we listened to Warren DJ or to one of the city's 2 black radio stations, WBLS or Kiss FM. I first heard songs like Shannon's Let the Music Play and Herbie Hancock's Rocket at these functions. Hip-hop was so far from the mainstream that even the black stations did not play it. But the songs that were informed by hip-hops were the ones that got the people up and moving. I would gravitate towards pop and R&B records with hip-hop elements in them long before I immersed myself in hip-hop culture. I remember first hearing pure hip-hop records like Houdini's To Freeze Come Out at Night and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, The Message at roller skating parties at places like United Skates of America in Queens and Empire Roller Rink in Brooklyn. The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 eventually set the stage for what would become known as conscious hip-hop. My actual participation in hip-hop culture began at Summit Junior High School and as a result of a girl named Stacy Cox. Stacy was the flyest girl in the whole school. She was a year my senior. She was also a great dancer and she was very popular. While I was definitely still in my I had my nerd swag, you know what I'm saying? This was a school full of nerds, so at some point I worked up the courage to take a shot at Stacy. She used to dance in a crew that was organized by one of the gym teachers, a hip-hop head named Wayne. I don't remember his last name, we didn't call him Mr. Anything, it was just Wayne. Wayne called his crew of dancers Much Finesse. They would wear white sweatshirts and with their names in puffy red letters on the front, and he would take his dancers all over the city to dance in neighborhood competitions and events. Wayne also considered himself a DJ, and he made a 5-minute mix for the girls to dance to that included Public Enemy's Don't Believe the Hype, Kid Plays Do This My Way, Make It Funky by Audio 2. Because of my crush on Stacy, I volunteered to help with the Much Finesse events. Real talk. My job was to play the mixtape. And these songs were the first hip-hop songs that really spoke to me. Watching how those girls moved to those songs and how the audience responded to them made me truly fall in love with hip-hop. Falling in love with the songs on Wayne's mixtape made me want to hear more music like that. And I knew the kids in my class was listening to BLS and Kiss FM on Friday and Saturday nights for their hip-hop fix. But I spent most of my weekends watching TV, playing baseball, going to the movies. Attempting to keep up with my peers, as well as impress Stacy, I began to record hip-hop mix shows from the radio as feverishly as I used to record, I was talking about Z100 earlier, I'm not even going to talk about that earlier. This was 1988, excuse me. 1988, this was the year known as the golden era of hip-hop. The amount of creativity and growth that happened in hip-hop music in 1988 is widely considered unparalleled in hip-hop circles. Here's a list of hip-hop albums that were released and changed my life in 1988. Yeah, write it down. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. Long Live the Kane by Big Daddy Kane. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick.
Yeah.
By All Means Necessary, Boogie Down Productions.
Yeah.
Follow the Leader, Eric B. and Rakim. Strictly Business, EPMD.
Yeah.
Light as a Rock, MC Light.
Nice.
World's Greatest Entertainer by Dougie Fresh. He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper by Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Yeah. Assault with a Deadly Pepper by Salt and Pepper. Too Hype, Kid and Play. In Control Volume 1, Marley Marl. Road to Riches, Coochie Rap and Polo. Tougher Than Leather, Run DMC. Going Off, Biz Markie. And Straight Out of the Jungle by the Jungle Brothers. That's right, Jungle Brothers. There were other great hip-hop albums that came out in 1988, but these are the ones that I was truly shaped by. If you know your hip-hop, you can see that's a lot of classic material for one year. Mm-hmm. New York was red hot. On Friday nights that summer, I listened to Cool DJ Red Alert and the Violin, crew held by the late Chris Whitey who eventually started Violator management. Violator has managed Tropical Quest, Busta Rhymes, Missy Elliott, 50 Cent, just to name a few. Back then, Baby Chris, as he was called, used to road manage for the Jungle Brothers, who along with Q-Tip and KRS-One for Boogie Down Productions were frequent guests of the Red Alert Show. On Saturday nights, I would listen to DJ Marley Marl and BLS. Marley's guests would include members of his famed Juice Crew like Biz Markie, MC Shan, Craig G, and Master Ace. Marley would also let younger DJs like Pete Rock and Funkmaster Flex spin as well. When I returned to junior high school in the fall of 1988, my hip-hop education was just about complete. I had spent the summer studying and listening to WBLS and KISS FM, studying the albums, watching the videos. I wore the clothes I saw my favorite rappers wear. I understood the rudiments of the culture, but I still had lessons to learn. Hip-hop was street music at this point, and my street education had not yet begun. I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna say thank y'all for letting me do my spiel. I appreciate y'all time and listening to me, and I'm interested in hearing from y'all, so thank y'all. Y'all beautiful.
Nice.
So we're going to have a bit of a community conversation. Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
That means I can hear you. So with that said, we're about to do a little bit of Q&A with Talib Kweli. This is a community conversation. So let's get into this talk. One of the first, because I'm not going to do this the whole time, but you can do this more, when you pose your question. So we'll get into this conversation. I guess one of the first things I wanted you to kind of talk about was I remember seeing you discuss how you brought hip-hop into the classroom, particularly for, I think it was an essay assignment or something like that, and I think you wrote about KRS-One. So can you talk a little bit about
that story from?
Yo, it's on the internet, man. You got everything.
When I was, I ended the thing about talking about my street education had not yet begun. I started really messing up very, very bad. And in my freshman year of high school, I was no longer challenged by the education system. I started spending a lot of time on the street, hanging out. I was just a super truant, right? Like I was like a truant with a cape on, you know what I'm saying? I just couldn't be stopped, you know what I'm saying? And my parents sent me away to boarding school. I got sent away to Cheshire Academy in Cheshire, Connecticut. And my first year, I went from Brooklyn Tech High School in Brooklyn, which was 5,000 kids, to Cheshire Academy, which was 120 kids. And one of the things I did, I had a history teacher. The teachers were very young, and they lived on campus with the kids. And there was a history teacher. He was also the baseball coach, because I played baseball there. Was named Mr. Clisby. And it's funny now because I'm 38 now? Something like that. And he was 22 at the time. And that's how young the teachers was at the school. And it was like, and I had to do a report on, I think it was Mesopotamia. And KRS-One on an album called Edutainment has a song called Black Man in Effect.
Yeah.
And in the song, he's breaking down everything that I was studying. So yeah, I came in and I kicked the KRS-One rhyme. And I got away with it, He was like, that was great. Shout out to KRS-One, who's been my mentor in many, many ways.
Hell yeah.
So the way that you put it is that you got away with it. Did that lead to like other instances where you might have used like hip hop for reports or essays?
Yeah, I got out of writing you gotta write one in paper so that you could graduate. I got out of writing one of those by saying that it was a paper on poetry. It was sort of a list of poets. And I wrote the essay on how it was biased. Like because there was no black poets, right? But I mean, y'all can clap and it sounds romantic and great and everything, but I was being a little facetious, a little pretentious, just a little bit.
All right, so with that experience, and we're going to turn it over to the audience in just a moment, so make sure you have your question ready, your comment ready. If it's got to be a comment, be appropriate. And keep it, you see how big this is? About that big. So, and then if it's a question, No paragraph, no preamble. All right, so so with that teacher realistically could have said, no, we're not going to have this. I'm not going to accept this as an assignment. I'm not going to accept this as a paper. I mean, given that he gave you that kind of flexibility, how do you feel about some educators who don't give their young people, their students, an opportunity to express themselves?
Well, I mean, I've certainly, you have to recognize the privileges that you've had in your life. And, I've had a lot of privileges in my life. One of them is being born in America. One of them is being born a man. And I've certainly had educational privilege. A lot of people where I'm from did not get to leave Brooklyn and go to school in Connecticut. And I had good teachers in Brooklyn. I had good teachers in Connecticut. For the little bit of time I went to college, I had a couple of good teachers. I've been blessed to be in situations where I've had a good education. I left college, while I was in it, but I still received that much education and all of that, it contributes to who I am. So, I mean, it's a blessing, and it's not something that I take for granted, that part of who I am is shaped by my community, but also shaped by the educators that I've come into contact with.
Right. So again, hopefully you're ready to question, but one thing you mentioned just a second ago, you said you were blessed with many privileges. And just so that we can kind of reflect on it and hear it for the audience, one of the privileges that you mentioned was being a man. Can you speak on how being a man is a privilege, and maybe even the privilege of being, in terms of the privileges that go along with masculinity and being a black man still?
Well, you notice I didn't have black men in front of that.
But yeah, you did. But you can't. But you're still a man.
Yeah. I got all the ones I got.
Right. True.
I think that's the key to having a passion in society, is knowing what it is that's allowed you to be the person you are, and to own it and recognize it, and to also have understanding for not everyone has your same viewpoint and your same perception based on their privileges or their lack of privilege.
So, all right, hopefully he says some things that are spicy here. Let's get you into the conversation. And if you have a question, I'm going to point to you, stand up, and then we'll go from there.
So just a real quick comment, man. I just got to say, you listed off, those people who influenced you early on, and I got to say that was you and most for me, really for real, and that's just from the heart.
Thank you.
I appreciate it back. And my question is, as an MC, as an artist, sometimes we play this role where we're writing a character and we're living vicariously through a character, and sometimes, we're really coming from the heart and representing ourselves. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that thin line that exists between those two things and just kind of how you navigate that.
That's very accurate portrayal of what MCs do. When I went to NYU, I went for a theater school. I went to Tisch School of the Arts. And I learned about like backstories and characterization and sense memory and all this stuff, and it made sense for me as an MC. Again, like what I was talking about earlier in my experience, I come from a generation of MCs where it was about community and about playing it close to the vest, and this is really who I am as a person, and it's like, but that's not quite accurate either. I mean, these are what we would like to see ourselves be. These are like the versions of ourselves 2.0. These are definitely the Talib Kweli on a record, as belligerent and arrogant as I can be on a record, is a caricature of myself, or I'm hoping it is. You know what I'm saying? I think that's accurate, and I think that's an important question, because you have hip hop that exists as the voice of oppressed people, and it's something that is predominant in oppressed communities. And you have people who are playing out characters. When you hear 2 Chainz say, I roll your rant in a Swisher, you can't roll nobody rant in no Swisher. Swisher's only like yay big, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not realistic, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's a lot of things rappers say that are just clearly not true. You clearly do not know the real Noriega, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, but people, are laughing because it's how ridiculous it sounds. You know what I'm saying? But a large part of our criticism of it allows us to take it on face value. And the meat of that criticism is that, well, they're speaking to oppressed people, and we don't have the luxury of celebrating this negativity and this degradation. But the danger with that is that now you have situations where rap lyrics are being used seriously